Amazon's turnover rate is about 150% per year. It has been so bad for quite some time now that they've been worried for quite a while that they're going to completely run out of people to hire. I've said this in previous videos before. Amazon has been pretty worried about eventually running out of people to hire completely. Now in today's video, I'm going to be discussing some of the reasons, just some because there are plenty, but I'm just going to be discussing 5 reasons on why Amazon's turnover rate is so high. With that being said, let's get straight into the video. Oh wait, before we do start, my first ever video on my other channel came out yesterday. Go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to the channel, the link in the description below. But yeah, now we can get into the video. So I've gathered 5 reasons on why the turnover rate is so high at Amazon. And reason number 1, rates. Rates are a huge problem for employees at Amazon. A lot of employees at Amazon don't enjoy their job, and a lot of that is due to rates. Rates stress people out like crazy. For those who don't work at Amazon, or for those who just don't know in general, rates are expected to be hit while you're working. So if you're stowing, you're expected to hit 350 items per hour. At least at my location, it's different and it varies per location, but for my location specifically, you have to scan an item and put it into a pod. You have to do 350 of those per hour. If not, you are not hitting rate. Now, rates vary between site and position, so if you're in pick or pack, your rates over there are also different. I believe in pack, it's like 175 per hour at my location or something similar to that. But regardless, Amazon is really strict about their rates. Now, I always say this in other videos, but rates don't really matter, but at the end of the day, it still stresses people out. And what I mean by rates don't matter is that you're never gonna get fired because you have low rates. Now, if you fall below the bottom 5%, which means that out of the entire warehouse doing your position at that specific day and shift, out of all the people there, if you fall in the bottom 5% mark of your rates, then you can be written up for that. And if you continuously do that, you can eventually be fired. But for the most part, as long as you stay in the top 95% of employees, so let's say there's 100 employees there, as long as you are doing the top 95% and you're hitting the top 95% rate, you're just fine. I always say this, but rates do not matter. They'll come and talk to you if you're not hitting the rate. Even if you're above bottom 5%, they'll still come talk to you if you're not hitting rate. But at the end of the day, all it is a coaching and nothing else happens outside of that. But a lot of new employees don't get that message and don't really realize that rates at the end of the day don't matter, because when you're first starting out at Amazon, and if you haven't watched YouTube videos similar to the ones that I make, or if you just haven't been told by veterans there, if you're just completely unaware of it, Amazon stresses you the hell out about rate in the beginning. And if you don't know otherwise, you'll think that it really matters. And a lot of new employees go through this where they don't realize that rates don't really matter that much, and it causes a lot of employees to quickly quit within their first 2 days, sometimes within the first week, sometimes within the first 2 weeks. There are a lot of employees who tend to quit really quickly because they are not meeting rate. Rates can be very stressful, especially if you don't know that they don't really matter that much. And overall, it's a very unhealthy practice that Amazon has implemented, and I believe that that is definitely one of the reasons that Amazon's turnover rate is so high, because people come in, they realize that they can't hit rates early on, it stresses them out, they think they're not meant for the job, and so they quit. Or they just don't like being pushed to hit a certain speed every single day, and they quit because that's not fun to them. And that is completely understandable. But for reason number 2, there's just pretty much no room for progression at Amazon. I've said this in previous videos as well, and I'll continue to say this. People rarely ever move up the ladder at Amazon. You rarely ever go from a tier 1 stower or a tier 1 packer up to a processing assistant. I said this, I think, in a recent video or in a video that's coming out next week. I'm not really too sure about that, but I did mention in one of those situations where in my entire time here at Amazon, over a year working here, this entire time I've been here, I've only seen one single person ever go from a regular position. He was a water spider in the case. He went from a water spider to a processing assistant. I have never seen anybody else do that. Everyone else, all the new area managers that we get, all the different managers, all the people in higher up positions, they all tend to be hired on from outside of Amazon. So it is super rare and it is very difficult to move up the ladder at Amazon, and that causes a lot of people to quit eventually because they realize there's no progression here, there's no advancement, they're just working and doing the same thing every day. So what's the point of being here? You want to work somewhere where you can work up the ladder, create some goals, satisfy those goals, reach everything, and do as best as you can in your company. With Amazon, that's almost impossible, and that causes a lot of people to quit. Now for number 3, this one is a bit complicated because it really depends on your state, but number 3 is definitely low pay. Amazon at a lot of different states and locations pays pretty low. Now for my example, where our minimum wage at my facility here in Houston, Texas, we get paid $15.50 as the minimum wage. Now, if you're living in Texas, especially Houston, with how low the cost of living here is, that is excellent. That is some pretty decent pay. You can definitely get yourself your own apartment, you can feed yourself, you'll be able to buy groceries, you'll be able to pay all your bills off, you'll even be able to have a little bit of extra spending money with that. So $15.50 over here is okay. But the problem is that in other states such as California, New York, Oregon, and other states that have a higher cost of living, you don't get paid much more over there. Sometimes you get paid maybe $18 when their minimum wage is a lot higher than Texas. Texas has a $7.25 minimum wage. Over there in California, I believe now it's $15 this year. I believe previously it was like $11.50. I think now that it is $15. I'll go ahead and put it on the screen if that's incorrect, but I do believe they raised the minimum wage. So if you're making like $18 in California at Amazon and the minimum wage is $15, you're not making much above minimum wage at all. So the pay really isn't that great, especially if you're in a place where the cost of living is insanely higher. Like, I can't imagine making how much I make at Amazon here in Texas anywhere else. They cost more to live. It just wouldn't work out. I wouldn't be able to pay my bills. I wouldn't be able to afford my own place. I'd have to live with my parents in that situation. And overall, this just goes for a lot of states and a lot of locations at Amazon. The pay is low. I can't say the same for my facility, but I know a lot of people out there do complain about the pay because there are a lot of people out there who aren't making a lot of money at Amazon. Now, for the fourth reason on why I think Amazon's turnover rate is so high is that it's a lot of young people's first job. There are a lot of young people who are just turning 17, 18, and 19. Maybe they're just getting out of high school and they're ready to go get a job, and they see Amazon's pay, and if they're in a state like mine where this pay looks really, really good, especially for not needing a high school diploma, not needing any college degrees, nothing like that. When you see things like that and you've never worked before, and this is going to be your first job, you think that is awesome. Now, I think that this actually causes a lot of people to end up quitting because a lot of people who are younger and this is their very first job, a lot of people are going to come into Amazon and not really realize how difficult the work is if this is your first job. Now, generally, I always say working at Amazon is very easy, but that is because I've worked jobs compared to this one that are much more difficult, and it makes this one seem like a breeze. A lot of younger people who are coming in, it's their first job ever, which is kind of why I don't recommend that this be a first job to somebody, especially if they're not prepared to work really hard, be on their feet all day, working pretty long 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. I always try to not recommend to those people to work here if it's their first job. I always recommend get a different job first so you can, kind of toughen up and really realize how hard the workforce can be. And that's just because I do believe that this job can be very difficult for somebody who might be working for their first time ever and who is a little bit on the younger side, who has no experience in the workforce. I actually think that this is probably a big part and a big reason as to why Amazon's turnover rate is so high, because you get a fresh 18-year-old right out of high school who's about to work their first job ever. They don't really expect it to be too difficult. They've heard some decent things about Amazon, so they go to Amazon, they go on their first day, and their feet are hurting really, really bad, their body's in pain, and they try to survive the first week, and they're like, I can't do this, I quit. It's going to happen to a lot of people, and I do believe that's why some employees tend to quit Amazon so quickly. And then number 5, this one's kind of similar to number 4, but that's that the job is physically demanding for some people. There's a lot of people who have only worked in an office before. There's a lot of people who have never really worked on their feet, maybe have never, worked at a job like a warehouse job where you're supposed to be moving your body around a lot, lifting boxes, lifting heavy things constantly. And to be honest, these people aren't lazy. The people who have never done this before aren't lazy if they want to quit because of this, but for some people that just isn't their kind of job. For some people, a warehouse job isn't for them, and that's perfectly understandable. That's perfectly okay. But I do believe that we get a lot of people at Amazon who come in who have never done manual labor like that and who have never worked a job like that before, and they come in not knowing what to expect, and then they kind of realize after their first week, similar to how I say the fresh young people out of high school kind of find it a little bit difficult. And that doesn't go for all fresh young people out of high school, by the way, just some. The same goes with the other adults who have never worked these kind of jobs before. They come in and realize this is a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. My body's hurting, my feet are hurting, everything is aching, and I don't think that my body can physically take this for much longer, and so then they end up leaving. And before anyone says that these people aren't lazy, this job just isn't for them. They are meant to work somewhere else. They are meant to do a completely different profession. But I do believe that that is another reason, and the 5th reason as to why Amazon's turnover rate is so high. Now, there are so many other reasons as well on why I believe that Amazon's turnover rate is so high. I can make like 3, 4, or 5 more of these videos. So if you want to see one of these videos again, leave a like, subscribe down below. I'm going to end that there. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check out the link in the description below. Go ahead and check out my new channel. My first video ever came out yesterday. I don't know how it went because I'm filming this a few days before this video releases. So not sure how it went. I'm not sure how many views it got. Not sure how the feedback was. Not sure what you guys thought of it, but let me know down in the comments below of that video. If you've seen it already, let me know what you thought of it, and if you haven't already seen it, go ahead and subscribe down below. Thank you all so much for the support on the new channel. It's done really well in terms of subscribers, so I thank you all so much for tuning in. Y'all are so real. Everyone who subscribed to that channel already before I am saying this, thank you so much. Go ahead and comment down below saying that you are one of the first 200 subscribers to that channel, because we're almost at 200, which is completely insane. But yeah, I'm gonna end that there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one. I love you all. Peace.